So today we're going to do the handover video on this Burstner Lyseo TD 690G. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. Before I get underway with the video, I'd please like to point out this vehicle hasn't yet been valeted. I just wanted to get this video out to you with plenty of time ready for your collection date. So firstly, coming over to the passenger side, you'll notice that you've got your fill-up point for your diesel and your AdBlue is just below that. The AdBlue has been topped up, and you'll get a warning symbol on the dash similar to the low fuel sign, just to indicate when that needs filling up. Using the key, just unlock the front cab, and as you can see, you can jump in onto the passenger side. You've got your bonnet release catch, which is here, which I'll unhitch for you now. And as you can see, with the on the door sill with the door open, you've got your tyre pressure points, which are just here. On all of your windows, this vehicle has got Remis cab blinds fitted. To operate them, all you need to do is simply pinch and pull. Pull from the bottom, just allow them to connect up via the magnetic strip. You've got the same on the other window and also the same across the big window at the front. As I say, simply pinch these and pull back like so until they clip in, and then they're ready to be used. Now please bear in mind that when you are using these, if you lead from the bottom instead of the top, it will stop them from kinking and potentially getting caught. And as a rule of thumb with anything in a motorhome, if it feels like it's being forced, you're probably doing something wrong, so just be delicate and mindful about that. But as I say, the best thing to do with these is simply lead from the bottom, keep this as straight as possible, and that will allow it to connect up nice and easy. And then you can slot it back into position. Now moving round to the front, underneath the bonnet there's not many things that you need to know. The main things that you need to know is if you're ever going to jump start the vehicle. So with the bonnet open, to jump start the vehicle, you can see that you've got your negative terminal here as indicated by the sticker above, and your positive terminal is just located here. There is a flap that just connects on over the top of that, and there is a little plus sign on there. It's a little bit difficult to see on the camera, and that indicates that that is the positive. So positive onto there and negative onto there. Whilst the bonnet is up, I'll just point out a couple more things as well. You've got your engine oil here. You've then got your brake disc fluid, which is above, your engine coolant, and then right at here you've got your washer fluid as well for your front windscreen. Moving around to the side of the vehicle, you can see that you've got an awning that is fitted to this van. This is a Thule Omnister awning. Now I'll send you a separate video showing you how to operate the awning, as it's a little bit difficult for me to with just the one hand I've got today. So I'll send you a separate video showing you how that awning operates. Now one thing to bear in mind with the awning is if it is a windy day, don't use it. It's quite a windy day today that I'm filming the video on, so this is a great example of when not to use the awning, because as you can appreciate, once the awning is out, it's like having a massive sail on the side of the van. So if there's a bit of wind that gets underneath it, it could potentially tear the awning off the van, damaging your van and also others on the campsite, so just bear that in mind. The other thing to bear in mind as well with the awning is it can be used in rain, but if it is wet and it does get caught in the rain, on a dry day you will need to pull that awning out just to allow the awning to dry, because you don't want the canvas remaining wet, because it will just become mouldy and that's when it will lead to rot. Obviously this is your habitation door. We'll pop into there shortly. We'll carry on doing the outside first. You can see on this side, this is where your cassette toilet is, and opening the locker will gain you access to the cassette. Now to empty this, all you need to do is pull up on the orange lever and slide out like so. It's dead easy and dead simple. Now before removing the cassette, please ensure that the blade on the toilet is closed. If the blade is open, you'll come to remove this cassette and it will get jammed. What that can lead to is if you force it, it could potentially damage the system and rip the plunger off. So please ensure that the blade is closed before removing the cassette. Now I'll show you where the blade is located on the inside of the van when we get to it, but that's just one thing just to bear in mind, to keep that closed and always to check before removing the cassette. And as you can see with the cassette on the ground, all you need to do to empty this is pull out the funnel like so, remove the grey cap, and then using the orange button on the back, click that in. That will release an internal vacuum on the inside of the cassette and will allow you to empty the contents out nice and easily. Now if you're using blue fluid to cleanse the system and break down the waste, all you'll need to do is put a couple of squirts in the top of this lid. There's a little measurement in there, and then you can pop the lid back on and tighten it, and then slide the funnel to this position, and then the cassette can of course go back where it needs to. Now you will notice that you have also got this little thing on the cassette which turns. This is what makes contact with the blade and will allow you to open and close the cassette when you need to. Now this should always stay in this position. This should never need to move. If this is off slightly, for example, when I go to put the cassette back in, it will jam. So you should never need to move it. It should always be in this position. As I say, if that is slightly off, it will jam and again consequently break. So please ensure that that is never moved and it stays in that position. And once you've emptied the cassette, just offer it back up to the locker, line it up and slide it in like so until the yellow handle, or the orange handle rather, is clipped in so it's ready for transit. Now directly above the cassette you can see that you've got your barbecue point. On here all you'll need to do is you'll need a little piece of pipe and a Jubilee clip, which will then slot onto here, and using a bayonet fitting that can go into there and connect into your pipe, and then you'll be good to use the barbecue point. Of course you'll need your gas on for this to operate, and you've got a direct isolator switch here to turn on and off the gas when you're using the barbecue. Moving on from the barbecue point, we've got a socket on the outside of the vehicle. Now this you can actually have wired up to an aerial on the van should you need to. They don't come as standard like that, as not many people want to use this as an external TV point. But that's where you will see that you've got an aerial there and obviously a point to hook it up to. You've also got a 230 volt power feed there. Now as you can see, as this vehicle is a German vehicle, there's a Continental plug in there, so you will just need an adapter to turn it into a 3-pin plug. But in essence this is a great option to have 230 volt plug-in on the outside of the vehicle. With the garage locker open, you can see you've got a light in here. You've also got your awning pole as well where that stores. Now this garage is fully heated and insulated, and you can see you've got these tie-down points which will just link into the base of the vehicle, so whatever you're putting in there, any contents you can tie down like bikes or anything like that. You'll also notice you've got some carpets with the vehicle, and this particular vehicle has got an external shower, and that is where the shower head is located. Moving along the back of the vehicle, you'll see up top you have got your reversing camera. And then moving over to the other side, you've also got another door, which is access into the garage. Next up, you've got your 230 volt hookup cable. So when you're on site, this is where you'll plug your vehicle in to get mains electric. This will give you mains electric to anything that's 230 volts in the vehicle. Such as, if you've had a microwave fitted in the van, that will allow you to use it. And obviously your 3-pin sockets. So anything that's 230 volt, when you're hooked up on site, this simply goes into there and that will provide you the power to the vehicle. You'll also notice you've got your fridge vents, which are just next up. This is naturally where the fridge pulls all of its air from. Now if you can, if it is quite a hot day, if you can try and keep this area out of the sun or in a shaded area, it will just allow the fridge to run a little bit more efficiently, as you can appreciate. You can also buy winter covers for these should you need to when you're storing the van. Next up, below here you can see you've got a little sticker, and this indicates where your wastewater drain is located. Now on this vehicle you've got a convenience locker which is up at the front there, which we'll get onto shortly, but the only tank that is in essence underslung in the vehicle and outside and external is your wastewater tank. And as you can see, just underneath there is the pipe, and using this metal rod in the vehicle you'll have a little handle which will just slot onto there, and then you can turn that and drain down the wastewater tank. Now with your wastewater, as it is underslung, if you are using the vehicle in winter, what I personally recommend is simply leaving that tank open and putting a bucket underneath there. The other tanks you're fine because they're on the inside of the vehicle, so they'll only freeze if you freeze in essence, but obviously that could potentially freeze when you're using the vehicle. Now you can buy heated blankets and winter packs and things like that. What a lot of customers end up doing is simply leaving this open, allowing it to trickle out of the tank and into a bucket underneath, as that ensures that 100% of the water is discharged out of the pipe and is not sitting in the van during them cool climates. One thing to mention as well with your drain down points, and this goes for all your drain down points, and I'll talk a little bit more when we get into this locker here, is when you are on site, you'll have a big grid that you can drive over. Simply drain all your tanks into that grid, and once you've drained down the majority of the water, what I personally recommend is leaving all your tanks open, because as you're travelling home, the vibrations of the road will ensure that that final bit of water, which is in the pipeline and obviously maybe still in the tank, will find its way out. Again, ensuring that you've not got any water in the system. Now, moving on, you can see you've then got your gas locker in here. You've got space for 2 gas bottles, and you'll also find that you've got your gas regulator here. You'll need a pigtail which will connect onto here and feed into your gas bottles, and then all you'll need to do is simply turn the gas on for that gas to then flow through the vehicle. Now please ensure that when you're travelling, the gas is turned off at the bottle, and then when you're on site and you're ready to use it, simply turn it on. You should never ever travel with the gas on, because as you can appreciate, if you are involved in a collision, it's highly dangerous, so just bear that in mind. Now this black box as well is the jack that the Burstners come with. A lot of people will just store this in the garage when they need to. And just above your garage, you can see that this vehicle is fitted with an external shower point as indicated by the sticker, and as I mentioned previously, you have got your shower head that just simply connects into here. On the end of the shower head, that just connects into there. You've got the option of choosing hot or cold, and then you've got a little button here which will activate the pump and pull the water through. But of course you will need your pump on the inside of the vehicle for this to operate. Below this, you've then got your truma vent. This is in essence the vehicle's chimney. It does get quite hot this, so don't hang anything on there. Just give it a wide berth, you don't want to burn yourself on that. And then finally, we come to your convenience locker, which is the final point on the vehicle. Your convenience locker will house, as you can see, your fresh water tank along with a few of your drain down points. Now your fresh water tank, as indicated by the sticker, will hold 120 litres of fresh water. To fill it up, all you'll need to do is remove the blue cap, and then using this overspill cap, that slots onto there, and then all you'll need to do is simply use a food grade hose pipe which can go into the tank, and from there you can fill up the tank. I recommend a food grade hose pipe, as that ensures no bacteria builds up in the pipe. Obviously the more you use it. Now I personally wouldn't recommend drinking out of the freshwater tank. If you're drinking water, just take bottled water, but of course if you're washing up and you're boiling the water, you're absolutely fine. Now if you're wanting to clean this tank, just pop the cap back on. Underneath you can see that you have got this red cap here. All you'll need to do is twist that. It's quite stiff, but twist that. That will remove, and that will allow you to wipe the inside of the tank. But as I mentioned, because you're not drinking out of this tank, it's not necessary to do a lot of the time. I'd recommend it once a year, just to give it a quick clean out. And you can also use water purifying tablets, which will just slot into the top and purify the tank and sterilise it. Now to drain this tank down, you've got 2 settings. You can either drain the tank down to 20 litres, or you can drain down the entire tank. The reason you drain down to 20 litres is, say for example you're travelling to your next site and you're not too sure whether you're going to get any water, or you may want some water in the van, so if you're stopping off you can make yourself a cup of tea. This will allow you to quickly drain down the entire tank to 20 litres. To do that, using the black bung on the top, simply turn that until you hit you feel a little kink in the or a little bung in the mechanism, and that will allow you to drain down the entire tank to 20 litres. Now if you want to drain down the entire thing, all you'll need to do, I don't know whether you heard that click then, but that's me draining it down past the bung, and you can see it's just draining out the leftover 20 litres of water out at the bottom of the tank. I'll just seal that up quickly. Now the reason that that the manufacturer allow you to drain down this is, they say if you are travelling with water, travel with a maximum of 20 litres. If you travel with the full 120 litres it will eat into your payload, and of course the weight distribution of the van will be affected. So if you're travelling with water, only travel with 20 litres and do so by just simply draining it down. But like I mentioned, on your wastewater tank, if you're draining down the entire thing, when you're on site, you'll drive over your big grid, just turn that and keep turning it past the bung until you hear a click, and that will drain down the entire tank. Just before we move on, you'll notice that is that little handle for your wastewater tank, so that will connect onto that metal rod, and you can simply turn it like that and empty the tank. Now further into here are your remaining drain down points. This is the drain down point for the boiler. The first one here with the diamond on the top, as indicated here, is for the boiler itself. This is how you drain the boiler, and then that yellow toggle just in the back there is how you drain everything from the boiler beyond. Now firstly, this is a frost protection valve which is for the boiler. All you'll need to do to close this, is just simply turn the diamond like so, and that blue tab on the side simply push in, and that will seal the boiler. When you're draining it, all you'll need to do, turn it like so, so the black nib on the diamond pops up and that blue tab on the outside just pops out, and that will drain down the boiler. Now this reacts to temperature. It's a frost protection valve, as I mentioned, so when it gets to a certain temperature, if say for example you're storing the van and you forgot to drain this down, it will automatically trip, as there's a solution in here which will react to temperature and drain down the boiler for you automatically. However, still get into the habit of draining that down manually. It's only there as a fail-safe. What may happen is if you've not used the vehicle in a long time, especially over the winter months, when you go to close this and you go to push the blue tab in on the side, sometimes, I'll just do it again, that blue tab may not push in all the way. It may keep pinging out. The reason for that is, as I say, there's solution in here which reacts to temperature, and that will indicate if it's not pushing in and sealing the unit, that it's too cold to seal the boiler. It's basically protecting the boiler of any water going in there. If that does happen, all you'll need to do is jump on the inside of the vehicle, turn your heating on, and thanks to this pipe being located here, that will heat this area, and after about 30 minutes this system will be able to be closed. Now to drain everything from the boiler beyond, as I say, all you do is you use this yellow toggle. At the moment it is sealed, so in the up position it is open. In the up it is open, and as I say, in the down it is closed. So it's dead easy, and again you need to make sure that these are all drained down when you're not using the vehicle. I personally even recommend draining the vehicle down in summer when you're not using it, although it's not necessary. It gets you into the habit of having them drained down, so then come the winter you're in the habit of draining everything down to ensure that no water freezes in the van. And that concludes the outside of the vehicle. We're now going to jump on to the inside. Okie dokie, so you can see we're now on the inside of the vehicle. As you walk through your habitation door, on to the left of you, you've got your main control panel along with your control panel for the heating. So firstly, the main control panel itself. Firstly, as we are plugged in, you can see that the vehicle is registering that feed. And as indicated by the little light, it shows that we're plugged in and it's accepting a charge. If you're on a campsite, for example, and you're plugged in and you're not getting anything to work, and this isn't lighting up, it's clearly a fault with the campsite or an issue with the power cable that you're using, where it's not accepting the feed, so just bear that in mind. Firstly, you've then got your main on and off switch here. As you can see, that'll turn on and off the lights and everything on the inside of the vehicle, everything 12 volt, that is in essence the isolator. It doesn't turn off these porch lights, you can turn these off just using the little switches down at the bottom. Coming back up, you've then got your battery levels. At the top here, you've got your vehicle leisure battery level. As you can see, we're pretty much at 100%. As we're plugged in, that will start charging it up. And then below, hold that in, you've got your vehicle battery level. So below is your vehicle battery. Above, as indicated by the little battery in the rear of a van, is your leisure battery. On the other side, you've then got your freshwater level. Hold that in, you can see that we've got 25%. And below is your wastewater level. Click that, again, got a similar amount into there. And then finally, you've then got your pump button. Click that on to activate the pump. Now, activating the pump, please ensure that if you are clicking that button on, there is water in the van. You don't want to be running that with without any water in the van, because of course you will burn out the pump. Now when you're on site and you're filled up with fresh water, click your pump button on and then go to your taps, including your shower, and turn them on and turn them to hot. What that will do is it'll pull fresh water from the freshwater tank into the boiler and then out of this tap. As I say, you need to do this for all your taps, including your shower, and when it's spurting and spluttering, it's pulling the water through, and then when it's running steadily, you've primed your system for your hot water. Now once you've done that, you then need to flick it over to cooled and do the same thing, and that will pull the water through, and again when it's running steadily, you've primed your system. Once you've done that, you don't have to turn your pump off at the main control panel, as on each of your taps you've got something called a micro switch, which will activate and deactivate the pump whenever you need it. A little bit like when you're at home. When you turn the tap on, it comes straight through. Now, the only time you need to, of course, turn that pump off is if you do run out of water. Now, one thing that you've got to bear in mind, the reason I tell you to turn it on hot first and then turn the tap on, is that will pull it through the boiler, allowing you to feed it through and prime the boiler as well as priming the hot water. Now, you've got to bear in mind your boiler will take about 10 litres of water. With saying that, that will pull through your boiler. It will take quite a bit of time because naturally it's pulling from the freshwater tank, filling up 10 litres and then and then it's finding its way through the taps. Just be patient with that, and that goes for all of your taps. But the reason I tell you to put it on hot first is if you're on site and this is the first thing you do and you prime it on the hot water, that will mean that your boiler is primed and is ready to use. From there you can then turn your heating on, which I'll show you how to do shortly, and that will give the boiler a chance to start heating up that water. Now it's going to take 30 to 40 minutes to heat that water up, depending on what fuel you are using and what the conditions are like on outside. But as I say, if that's the first thing you do, by the time you've prepped the van and you've got everything where it needs to be, your water should be up to temperature and ready to use. So moving on from the main control panel, we're going on to your heating next, which will tie into the point that I've just made. All you need to do is turn this on. It's on at the moment, but hold this little dial in and that'll turn on the system. So everything below this line is what you want to select, and as you can see, you moving the dial, whatever's flickering is in essence what you are hovering over. So firstly, you've got your vehicle's temperature. Click the dial in and then turn the dial to send it all the way up to 30 degrees should you need to. Next, you've then got your water temperature. So you can have it on Eco, Hot or Boost. Eco is approximately 40 degrees, Hot is approximately 70 degrees, and Boost will in essence boost and concentrate heating the water. So instead of heating the vehicle itself, it will concentrate on purely heating the water for 30 minutes. Again, depending on your situation and how cold it is outside. Next up is your fuel. This is really important. This is where you select what fuel you want the system to be running off. So you can either run it off gas if you're wild camping. You can run it off mix 1 or mix 2. Now mix 1 is a mixture of gas and 1 kilowatt electric. Mix 2 is a mixture of gas and 2 kilowatt electric. And you'll tend to use this, say for example, if the electric, if it's especially a cool day and you think the electric just needs a little bit of a help from the gas, it'll just boost it up, that's all. Give you a little bit more. Just coming back onto this. There we are. Next up, you can run it off purely electric, and that's EL1, which is 1 kilowatt electric, or EL2, which is 2 kilowatt electric. 9 times out of 10, if you're plugged in on site and you're running it just off electric, you'll be able to run it off EL2. Now, if you go abroad in the vehicle, certain campsites, especially in France, they don't provide you with much power, so you may be limited to only be running it off EL1. If that is the case, stick it on a mix 1 or purely gas, as a vehicle of this size is really going to struggle getting up to temperature on EL1, so just bear that in mind. And you want to make sure that whatever fuel you've got supplied in the vehicle, you select. So say for example, if I selected gas at the moment, as I've no gas in the vehicle, this panel will fault as it's trying to fuel the boiler with something that it's not got. So just bear that in mind, and we'll get on to the faults shortly. Next up, you've then got your fan. Now, as I've not got anything selected, it's just given me the option of vents, which will recirculate the air. And this is for the room temperature itself. This is for the vehicle heating. If I add something selected, it will then give me the option of high, or eco rather, or boost. Eco will obviously start the fan, and boost will, just like I said with the water, instead of heating and concentrating on the water, it will flip over and concentrate on heating the vehicle itself. So it depends, again, on what your priorities are. Next up, down here, you've got a little timer, so you can set a timer of when you want the heating to start. You've then got a clock, so you can change the time on the clock. And then finally, you've got your settings panel. Now in the settings panel, the main thing that you need to know is the reset button, which is right at the end. Now the time that you'll need to reset the panel is, say for example, you get an error code on the control panel. This comes about because typically you've selected a fuel that you haven't got to power up the boiler. Going back to what I was saying, say for example if I turn this on and turn this on to gas and it tried to heat up the vehicle with gas in, the setting of gas, it will fault and I'll get an error code and it will shut down because it's protecting the system. So you'll get an error code on here. All you'll need to do is go into that settings panel, click reset, and that will reset the entire system. It will flicker and then it'll come back on the screen, and it'll do that after about 20 seconds. But you do need to wait a full 20 minutes for that to do a full reset, so just bear that in mind. Now, to turn this off, all you'll need to do is hold this dial in, and eventually it will say off. When you're moving off site and you're packed up, please ensure that you turn that off before removing whatever fuel you've got to it. So say for example I'm running this off electric now. If I simply remove the power cable without turning this off first, again you'll get that error code. So next time you come to use the van, you'll be faced with having to reset it. So please bear in mind that that needs to be turned off before removing whatever fuel you've got. Now below this unit you can see there's space for a telly, as well as the relevant 12 volt points and 230 volt points should you need it. And as I mentioned before, you've got your lights here, a few lights where you can turn them on and off in the vehicle, and you've also got your button for the step. Now the step, when you turn the ignition on, if the step is out, you'll get a horrible whining sound from the alarm. That is in essence just telling you that your step is out, so please just put it back in when you hear that alarm. Now just turning round, you can see that you've got a nice lounge area at the front with a really good bit of storage above. Located underneath here is a really deep pocket of storage. As this vehicle has a double height floor, they cut into that storage to make it really deep, so you can store your bits and bobs under there. Now bear in mind you haven't got any storage underneath here, as that is where your boiler and also your fresh water tank is located. Now where I'm stood, you can see you've got a little insert. I think there's one, yeah, there's one just behind me as well, which is just there. Simply push up like so and pull, and that will gain you access to that area. It's great for putting your shoes in there or storing any wine that you might be taking, and that is also heated and insulated again if you're putting anything damp in there. It's a really nice bit of storage again, which makes use out of that double height floor. Above there you can see that you've got this table. Now this particular table will remove. As you can see, it's currently connected onto the rail there. You can move this back and forth as well. To remove this, simply lift the table up and out, and that can go and store in the garage. You have also got another layer to this table. As you can see, there's two levels. All you've got to do is pull this knob down like so, and that will allow you to swing this other level out. So if anyone's sat here or you've swiveled the captain seats, you can eat there. This particular vehicle as well has been spec'd with what's the word, the dinette to berth kit. So you can see this leg simply pulls off, and using the little rail which is down there, that will pull off, and this will connect to that lower rail, creating the base down here. And then you've then got your infills which will convert this area into a bed should you need to. And as you can see, I've just dropped the table down like so. I've just switched out the leg for the smaller leg which was located on the bottom, and that will give you a nice strong base. Next up, you've then got the infill which just slots into here. all you need to do is connect that, as you can see, with the little holes underneath the forward facing passenger seats, and then on the base you've got a little flip down leg which will again give you the strength to lay someone on there. Next up, you've then got a little wood panel insert which just connects into the grommets underneath the seat, again connecting it like so. And then as you can see, I've just slotted the infill cushion into position, and this seat, as you can see, using the seat base cushions, they just slot down and create the bed where you can sleep transverse across the vehicle. What I personally recommend if you are using this is using a mattress topper. That will just take any contours and any gaps and soften that for if anyone is sleeping on this bed. And as you can see, we're then back to your lounge area. Them infill cushions can just store in your garage, and then of course when you're not using them, just store them at home. Next up, we're moving back into the kitchen area. Now we've spoken obviously about your tap and priming your system, and here you've got a really big bit of storage on the slide out drawers, and up at the top, located in here, you can see you've got some grey valves. These are the isolator valves for the vehicle, and they will allow you to isolate sections of the vehicle. What I advise is not to turn these or mess with these. These are simply for the technicians when working on the vehicle, so please leave them as they are. Moving on, you can see then you've got your hob, which is just up at the top here. There are 3 gas burner rings, and your oven and grill is just below. You have of course got an igniter switch there as well to ignite the flame. Below that, you've then got a little bit of storage in here, but you've also got an access point to your RCD breaker. So if the vehicle ever trips, you just simply need to come to this point, lift this up, and obviously reset the switches. And they're just all located there, so they're nice and accessible for you. Moving on, we've then got your fridge. This is a Thetford fridge. And to turn this on, all you need to do is simply hold this button, and that will turn everything on. To select through the options, simply hold the square button like so until everything starts flashing, and then using the arrows you can then flick through the options. Now you've got the option of A, which will automatically assign whichever fuel you've got in the running off the fridge, or you can do it manually by selecting 230 volt electric, 12 volt leisure battery or gas. But what I'll do is I'll select it on the A, select that in. You can then change your temperature again using these little arrows, but again I'll leave that as it is. And now currently the fridge is running off the 230 volt electric point. A is obviously the best one to run it off because that will automatically assign whichever fuel you've got in the vehicle. Now just running back over your the little options to fuel it. As I say, if you're on site you can run it off your 230 volt electric, which we're currently on as we're plugged in. You can then also run it off your 12 volt leisure battery when you're travelling, when the ignition's on. And then you've also got the option of gas. As I say, you can then run that when you're wild camping. Now a lot of customers think that they may be able to run this fridge off the 12 volt leisure battery when they're wild camping. However, that's not the case. If you was to do that, it would sap all the battery of all of its energy, and it just wouldn't work. So it will only allow you to run it off the 12 volt leisure battery when your ignition is running. The reason for that is this vehicle has got a built-in alternator, so when you turn on the engine, the vehicle battery will send charge to the alternator, which will then send it to the leisure battery, which will then allow you to power up the fridge. So as I say, when you're wild camping it's just gas, and when you're travelling it's 12 volts. But as I mentioned, select it on the A and that will automatically assign whichever fuel you've got to the fridge. Now with the fridge open, you can see your fridge is just below, and here in there is your freezer compartment. And to turn it off, simply hold this button in, and eventually, just like so, it will turn off. Above the fridge in here, you've also got a little bit of storage. And before moving on from the kitchen, just opening up here, you can see you've also got a little bit of storage above, as well as your Burstner instruction manuals and packs. Directly opposite the kitchen, you've got your bathroom. So in here, this is a space for a shower and also your toilet. Firstly, if you're using the shower, all you'll need to do is simply clip this into position and simply slide the concertina wall round. This just connects via a magnet at the top, as you just heard. It's connected into place now, and then this is ready for a shower. You've also got a little curtain which will pull across and connect to these magnetic points here, which will just protect the door for any moisture. Now if you're using it, of course, as a toilet, this slides back round, and as you can see, that connects into position. The toilet is dead easy, dead simple. This cassette does move around as well, it does spin, so you can get comfy. So when it's in use, your blade on the toilet is this piece of plastic here, and that needs to be open. So simply slide that across. That will open the cassette and will allow all your waste to drop into the cassette. Now once you've done that, using the blue button up at the top, that will activate your flush, and that will flush the entire system. Once you've done that, close the blade. Now you close the blade for two reasons. The main reason is it stops any odours from escaping, and the second reason is it just gets you into the habit of having that closed, so every time you come to remove the cassette, this isn't open and it won't cause it to jam, for the reasons I mentioned outside. Now just one thing before we move on. At the top here, as I say, this will activate your flush. You will need your pump on for that to activate, and when the cassette is full, you will get a little red light on here to indicate that it needs emptying. Also down here as well, you can see that you've also got a switch here. This catches everyone out. That's where the switch is for the light. And you've also got a little hanging rail, so you can hang any wet clothes in here and they will just drain down the plug holes there. And then finally, you have a socket in there, but also a bit of storage as well. Now moving into the the bedroom area, you can see that you've got a slide out step here with a little bit of storage in there. All you'll need to do, pop that back in that little black cap, that black cap there, and that will allow it to store in, so you can gain access underneath the bed in here. There's a little light in here. You can see your hanging space is just there, so you can put all your hangers on there. That just slides out and slides back into place there. On the other side, you've also got a really good bit of storage. Pull that open, you can see that you've got space for folding your clothes. And down here as well, you've got your bedroom lights as well for your mood lighting around the bed. You have also got blanking sockets here. If you ever wanted a 230 volt socket located there, you can do. And into the bedroom area, you'll notice that this vehicle has got rear TV prep for if you ever wanted a telly back here. You can see this model has got the two single beds. Now, as you can see, this has got the infill. This infill will slot into here and will make the area a huge big double bed. And as you can see, with the infill in, that is good to go. You've then got your rear ladder for that to connect into here, and will allow you to get into the bed so you don't have to run and jump. Now finally, before we conclude today's handover video, on all of your windows you've got fly screens that you just simply pull down, and blackout blinds, which are just located here. To unscrew to open up the window, all you'll need to do, simply pull the latches like so, and open the window just like so. On these windows, they've got a ratchet system, so all you need to do, you just need to be careful when pushing out the window. If you want it to stay into position like that, just simply push up slowly and let that connect into place, and then you can fasten it. You've got a few options as well where you can stop it, and then when you're stopping it, or when you're wanting to take it in, push it all the way up and pull it down, and that will then allow you to connect the window into place. Now you can put these windows on venting. As you'll notice, you've got a second option here, and that will allow a little bit of airflow through, but personally what I recommend is when travelling, these do need to be closed at all times. You don't want any wind getting through here, because that will pull out the window. The same goes for your skylights, and above the kitchen you've got a skylight here. All you'll need to do to open this, press that button in, and you can slide and pull back just like so to open up the skylight. Again, when travelling, please ensure that these are closed. Now that concludes the handover video on this Burstner Lyseo TD 690G. I hope you enjoyed.